Good morning, students. So, students, how are you? So, today, students, we are going to start a new chapter, that is chapter 3, risk assessment and internal control. So, students, this chapter 3, risk assessment and internal control, it is mainly based upon three essays. These are the name of three essays on which this chapter is based. So first essay is essay 315. Essay 315. The name of the essay is identifying and assessing risk of material misstatement through understanding the entity and its environment. So this essay, students, essay 315, this deals with how risk of material misstatement is identified and assessed by the auditor. By understanding the company, the organization which he is also, that this essay deals with the concept of materiality. So how materiality is determined, what are the various factors which are to be taken into consideration while determining materiality in planning and performing an audit. So all these things we shall be learning through this essay, essay 320. And third essay is essay 330. The auditor's responses to assessed risks. So once the auditor has identified and assessed the risks of material misstatements, what is his response? What his response should be? Okay. So these aspects are dealt in essay 330. So first we shall be taking essay 315. Students, and remember this chapter number 3, chapter number 4, and chapter number 5. These are the lengthiest chapters in your syllabus. Rather, I think chapter 4 is the lengthiest. It is lengthiest than even chapter 3. So we shall be devoting sufficient time to these chapters. And remember, students, this chapter 3, chapter 4, these are both technical chapters. So try to understand the concepts. And if you are not able to understand the concepts at one go, then give the reading in your module at least 4 or 5 times to have an understanding. Or you can ask what are your doubts, so we'll be resolving your doubts at the end of the session as usual. So students, first of all, we shall try to understand the things generally, very generally, without referring to your module, and then I will come to the module to understand what is written there in a technical manner. Okay. So students, we have been touching upon the concept of audit risk. So you have to learn these terms first of all. First term is audit risk. Then there is another term, risk of material misstatement. And this is again divided into two aspects. One is inherent risk and another is control risk. And third term is detection risk. This can again be divided into two, that is sampling risk and non-sampling risk. So first of all, we shall understand what do we mean by audit risk. So audit risk, students, independent auditor of financial statements is to express an opinion, on financial statements. This much you are clear? So what is audit risk? Audit risk is the risk, it is the chance, it is the probability that auditor expresses an inappropriate opinion. When financial statements are materially misstated. So suppose, students, there are certain misstatements in the financial statements, maybe due to errors or frauds, like say some expenses which are of capital nature and which should have gone to fixed assets or property, plant and equipment. These have been booked as revenue expenses in statement of profit and loss account. So this is a kind of probability. So when such a probability exists, we say that audit risk exists. So what is risk, students? Risk is chance of something happening negative. Risk is chance of, probability of something happening negative. So you have heard about many type of risks, like there is finance risk, there is business risk. In every, you can visualize different type of risks, like safety risk, like security risk. So you are driving a car, there is a safety risk. So similarly, in case of audit, there is audit risk. So the meaning of audit risk is the chance that the purpose of audit gets defeated. The purpose for which audit was performed, it gets defeated, and the auditor expresses an inappropriate opinion when financial statements are misstated. Okay, so assume there are misstatements in financial statements. So obviously there would be a chance of auditor expressing an inappropriate opinion, of auditor expressing a wrong opinion, of auditor giving clean chit to the company, whereas otherwise he should have given different sort of opinion. So clear, students, you understand what do we broadly mean by audit risk? So audit risk, students, you have also to understand that this term audit risk is specifically used in the context of audit of financial statements. It doesn't mean any legal risk or litigation risk which the auditor um, might have to go through like suppose the auditor expresses an inappropriate opinion. Okay, when financial statements are misstated. Financial statements are misstated, but auditor gives a clean sheet to the company. So ultimately, say assume that the matter is taken up by the regulator, and auditor is called upon to explain that how you have performed the audit. So the auditor might get entangled into some legal issues. There can be legal trouble for the auditor. So these type of consequences, these do not fall within the meaning of audit risk. Although these have arisen because of the failure of auditor to properly assess audit risks, but these type of consequences do not fall within the meaning of audit risk. Okay guys, clear? Like if an auditor is expressing an inappropriate opinion, his credibility might take a hit, his reputation might take a hit. But this type of risk, his credibility taking a hit, or loss of his clients because of work not done by him properly, do not fall within the meaning of audit risk. The meaning of audit risk is restricted, it is confined uh, to the fact, to the chance that an auditor expresses an inappropriate opinion when financial statements are materially misstated. ओके स्टूडेंट्स, ये आपको डेफिनेशन स्टूडेंट इसकी रिमेंबर करनी है. दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट स्टूडेंट्स. इस चैप्टर में अगर आपको ये इन चार पांच जो टर्म्स हैं, अगर आपको इन चीजों का मतलब प्रॉपरली समझ आ गया तो ये सारा चैप्टर आपके लिए इजी हो जाएगा. इट वुड बी ए केक वॉक फॉर यू. और अगर आपको इसका मतलब समझ नहीं आता प्रॉपरली, तो आप इस चैप्टर में चैप्टर के क्वेश्चंस आंसर करने में आप मिस्टेक्स करते रहेंगे. सो देयरफॉर वी शैल बी टेकिंग मोर टाइम, and we shall try to make you these concepts clear as far as it is possible. Okay. Yes, Ashok, you are saying screen is blur. Yes. Manish, screen is blur, some student is saying. So there is no problem from our side. Okay. Okay guys, so you understand the meaning of audit risk. If you have any doubt, you can send your mail. I'll take it afterwards. So another term is risks of material misstatement. So what is risk of material misstatement? Risk of material misstatement is chances of material misstatements in the financial statements. Chances that financial statements are materially misstated. Okay, so this consists of two components. One is inherent risk and another is control risk. So what is inherent risk, students? Now inherent risk, स्टूडेंट्स, जैसे कि आपको नाम से पता चल रहा है इनहेरेंट. सो व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ इनहेरेंट? मीनिंग ऑफ इनहेरेंट इज कमिंग फ्रॉम विद इन। जो जो उसके अंदर से आ रहा है, इनहेरेंट, कमिंग फ्रॉम विद इन। तो लाइक स्टूडेंट्स, कुछ ट्रांजैक्शंस ज्यादा उनमें इनहेरेंट रिस्क होता है, कुछ ट्रांजैक्शंस में कम इनहेरेंट रिस्क होता है। You have to understand, however, that inherent risk is present in every transaction. The question is only of degree. The question is only of degree. कि किसी में ज्यादा होगा, किसी में कम होगा। लाइक से जो कैश ट्रांजैक्शंस है, इफ some business is solely relying upon cash transactions, it is making its all sales in cash. So obviously inherent risk would be more. There would be more chance of manipulation of the revenue stated in financial statements. So this kind of risk, this kind of probability, we call it as inherent risk, that is coming from within the transaction. Okay, so that is coming from the nature of business. So such type of risk, which we call as inherent risk, it is coming from within the business, from the type of the business, the type of transactions which are being carried by the company, by the organization, by the entity. Students, so आपको इनहेरेंट रिस्क का ब्रॉड मीनिंग पता चल गया कि इनहेरेंट रिस्क होता क्या है। एंड नाउ वी कम टू कंट्रोल रिस्क। So students, we shall be studying all these concepts in detail. Initially, I am only giving you a broad outview, ताकि आपके दिमाग में थोड़ी सी फैमिलैरिटी हो जाए कि इन सब बातों का मतलब क्या है। ओके, सो व्हाट इज कंट्रोल रिस्क? कंट्रोल रिस्क स्टूडेंट्स, हमने पढ़ा था चैप्टर 1 में कि एक कंपनी, एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अपने बिजनेस को चलाने के लिए, एफिशिएंटली और इफेक्टिवली चलाने के लिए कुछ कंट्रोल सिस्टम्स डेवलप करती है। स्टूडेंट्स, नो बिजनेस कैन रन विदाउट ए प्रॉपर control system operating in the organization. So the probability that the risk, the chance that the control system does not operate effectively, that it is not giving the desired result, the purpose for which the controls were established, these are not giving the desired results. सपोज स्टूडेंट्स, मैनेजमेंट ने कंट्रोल लगाया कि कोई 3 लोगों को ड्यूटी असाइन की कि आपको ये काम करना है। अब उन 3 लोगों ने उस ड्यूटी का, उस डायरेक्शन का सपोज मतलब ही नहीं समझा ढंग से, तो उन्होंने उसकी वैल्यू नहीं समझी, उन्होंने कहा वी शैल नॉट डू दिस वर्क। सो द मैनेजमेंट हैज devised a control, but it is not happening actually. So these kind of things fall within the meaning of control risk. से मैनेजमेंट ने किसी की अपने एम्प्लॉय की ड्यूटी असाइन की कि आप बैंक रिकंसिलेशन स्टेटमेंट हर महीने बनाओगे, अकाउंटेंट की ड्यूटी असाइन की, एंड द अकाउंटेंट does not follow that instruction. He bypasses that instruction. So the control devised by management is not working. It is bypassed. Okay. So the chance of this happening is called as control risk. Again, students, control risk is also present, is always present. However sound a control system may be developed by the management, some control risk would always be there. कुछ ना कुछ कंट्रोल रिस्क जरूर होगा. जितना मर्जी आप कोई एफिशिएंट सिस्टम बना लीजिए, लेकिन उसमें कुछ ना कुछ रिस्क रहेगा. हम रिस्क की बात कर रहे हैं स्टूडेंट्स, आपको ये रिमेंबर करना है. हम चांस की बात कर रहे हैं, हम प्रोबेबिलिटी की बात कर रहे हैं. सो द प्रोबेबिलिटी of those controls not being followed would always be there. सिर्फ डिग्री का फर्क होगा, सिर्फ डिग्री का फर्क होगा कि कंट्रोल रिस्क किसी सिचुएशन में ज्यादा होगा, किसी सिचुएशन में कम होगा, किसी सिचुएशन में मीडियम होगा, लेकिन इट कैन नॉट बी रिड्यूस टू जीरो, इट कैन नॉट बी कंप्लीटली एलिमिनेटेड. ये बिल्कुल खत्म नहीं हो सकता. सिमिलरली इनहेरेंट रिस्क can also not be completely eliminated. It would always be there. In some riskier type of businesses, it would be its degree would be higher. In other kind of businesses, its degree would be lower. Okay. And the next thing is, students, detection risk. So what is detection risk, guys? Detection risk is the chance, is the risk that the procedures which are employed by the auditor uh, to detect material misstatements, these fail to detect those material misstatements. ओके. से स्टूडेंट्स, ऑडिटर ने अपने प्रोसीजर्स बनाए कि मैं इन्वेंट्री काउंट की फिजिकल इन्वेंट्री काउंट में प्रेजेंट रहूंगा, या मैं डेटर्स के बारे में उनके लेजर अकाउंट चेक करूंगा सैंपल लेके. लेकिन जो भी प्रोसीजर्स ऑडिटर ने प्लान किए, उसमें पॉसिबिलिटी है कि जो भी प्रोसीजर्स वो परफॉर्म करेगा, तो सारी मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट्स आर नॉट brought to his light due to performance of these procedures. So he may fail to detect material misstatements. Because why? Because due to the nature of procedures itself. तो स्टूडेंट्स, आप रिमेंबर कर सकते हैं कि डिटेक्शन नेचर ऑफ प्रोसीजर की वजह से क्या राइज होता है. The nature of procedures employed by the auditor are not foolproof. These may fail to detect material misstatements because of the nature of procedures itself. So what we had studied in chapter 1, it is because of the inherent limitations of audit. Remember, guys, it is because of inherent limitations of audit. So detection risk, students, consists of two parts. One is sampling risk and another is non-sampling risk. So what is sampling risk? So sampling risk simply means that the sample which the auditor has obtained to perform his procedure, to do his verification, is not truly representative. So say the auditor has selected 10 accounts for verification, but the sample chosen by him is not truly representative of the whole of accounts which he is verifying. So this leads to sampling risk. So always sampling risk is would always be there. आपको स्टूडेंट्स you know about statistics. So जब भी whenever you draw a sample, there would be risk. There would be risk. You have probably heard about surveys in newspaper reports. So many surveys come about regarding polls and etc. All these things. So all these are based upon samples. So, but these have, if you have read about these surveys, so there is clearly written that there is a risk, that there is so much risk, plus minus 5%, that their sample may not be truly representative. So sampling risk is always there. Okay. And then there is non-sampling risk. So what is non-sampling risk? So non-sampling risk is risk which is not related to samples. So like the auditor may perform some wrong procedure which is not appropriate in those circumstances. Say auditor को comfort मिलना है, the auditor would get comfort by sending external confirmation request to the third parties, but the auditor does not choose to send those requests, and instead he relies on some other procedure. So these kind of things fall in the non-sampling risk. Like, or you can say the auditor is evaluating results of some procedure performed by him, but he misunderstands those results. तो इसमें सैम्पलिंग की तो कोई गलती नहीं है. इसमें there is no mistake due to sampling. It is because of his inability that auditor is not properly evaluating those results. So these kind of things fall in the meaning of non-sampling risk. So okay students, you have understood the broad general meaning of audit risk, risk of material misstatements, its two components, that is inherent risk and control risk, and third is detection risk. So guys, you also have to understand that audit risk is a function of risk of material misstatements and detection risk. So if we, and what are the two components of risk of material misstatement? These are inherent risk and control risk. So we can say that audit risk is inherent risk multiplied by control risk multiplied by detection risk. So this is the kind of a relationship to study the various components of audit risk. तो स्टूडेंट्स आई होप कि आपको इसका थोड़ा सा अंडरस्टैंडिंग हुई है. ये टेक्निकल स्टूडेंट्स, दीज आर ऑल टेक्निकल टर्म्स. व्हेन यू विल स्टडी दीज 3, 4, 5 times, only then you will gather the import of it. तभी ये आपके these concepts would be cemented in your minds. And students, all these terms, again I am repeating it, all these terms are very, very important. MCQs are also coming, and a descriptive question, case study based questions, anything can come from these areas. So students, now we'll see what is written in your module. Yes. So audit risk means the risk that the auditor gives an inappropriate audit opinion when financial statements are materially misstated. So risk means probability. So we are talking about probability, chance that an auditor gives an inappropriate audit opinion. So what is inappropriate audit opinion? Inappropriate audit opinion means that when there are misstatements in financial statements and the auditor gives clean chit to the company, he gives an unmodified report, he gives a clean chit to the company, he says everything is fine and nothing wrong has been found. So audit risk, students, you have to understand that it also cannot be totally eliminated. It cannot be reduced to zero. It cannot be totally eliminated, but it can be reduced. So what a good auditor, what an experienced auditor would try to do? Think logically. What a good auditor would try to do in every audit? He would try to lower his audit risk. Every auditor would strive to lower his audit risk. No, because why? Because nobody would want that he gives a wrong opinion, that he gives an inappropriate opinion when financial statements are materially misstated. So the auditor would try to lower his audit risk. But this cannot be totally eliminated. It would always be present in every audit. It is always present in every audit. Yes, students. So it means that auditor expresses an unmodified opinion when financial statements are materially misstated. So students, unmodified opinion क्या होता है? This you would read in later in your chapter on audit report. So unmodified opinion, simply you can understand, it is sort of giving clean chit to the company, clean report. Like there are misstatements, but the auditor says everything is fine. So this is the meaning of unmodified opinion. He gives an unmodified opinion when financial statements are materially misstated. तो अब उससे क्या होगा स्टूडेंट्स? उससे the auditor can face trouble, he can face regulatory action, So these are all consequences. He can face a loss of goodwill, but these are all consequences of it. But these do not fall within the meaning of audit risk. So meaning of audit risk is restricted, is confined to auditor expressing an inappropriate opinion when financial statements are materially misstated. Okay. So therefore, every auditor would try to lower his audit risk. In every situation, the auditor would want that that my audit risk should be low. Nobody would want to get entangled in legal cases. Nobody would like to be involved in litigation or suffer loss of reputation because of his expressing in his or her expressing an inappropriate audit opinion. Okay, so like students, we had discussed that say किसी company में there is a company in which is booking fake revenues, which is booking fake sales on the basis of fake billing. So sales of the company say actually are 20 crores and say it is showing it as 50 crores. Okay, so obviously financial statements are materially misstated in this case. Now, what is the audit risk in such a case would be there is audit risk that auditor would be expressing an inappropriate audit opinion. Now, what would be challenge for the auditor? The challenge for the auditor would be to detect those material misstatements. Now, how he would detect those material misstatements? First, he would have to identify and assess that such risk of material misstatement exists. Okay, by seeing the nature of business, by seeing how the company is doing its business and what are the control systems operating, he has to identify and assess risk of material misstatement. Only it is only then he would be able to plan and perform his procedures accordingly so that proper opinion can be expressed. Yes, students, clear? So audit risk is a function of risk of material misstatement and detection risk. This is also very important, guys. Mark this. So in these 15-20 pages, first 15-20 pages, every word, every line is important, guys. So audit risk is a function of risks of material misstatement and detection risk. So it is a consequence of two things. One is risks of material misstatement and another is detection risk. Now, what is risk of material misstatement? Risk of material misstatement is that there is a chance, there is a probability that financial statements, that balance sheet, profit and loss, books of accounts, that these are materially misstated prior to audit, before audit. Now this is important for you to remember that there are already some frauds or errors which are there in financial statements, due to which there are misstatements in financial statements before audit. These are already misstated. So it is called as risk of material misstatement. So risk of material misstatement, students, you have to understand that it is wholly, it completely lies with the organization, with the company, with the entity. इसमें ऑडिटर का तो रोल नहीं है. अगर कोई कंपनी फ्रॉड कर रही है तो वो तो कर रही है, उसका ट्रांजैक्शंस आर हैपनिंग. ओके, नाउ इट इज फॉर द ऑडिटर टू dig it out, to perform his procedures, to plan his procedures, to dig out those material misstatements. Okay, so risk of material misstatement is the probability, is the chance that there are misstatements due to errors or frauds or both in financial statements prior to audit. Before audit, the financial statements are materially misstated. Okay, students, clear कि पहले से ही फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स जो है उनमें गड़बड़ है, उनमें there are errors, there are frauds in those financial statements. So this is risk of material misstatement. And students, अब ये term हम we have been learning since chapter 1, misstatement. Now we have understood this term quite generally. Now this is the technical definition of material misstatement. Of misstatement. So what is meant by misstatement now? What is meant by misstatement? तो misstatement students generally तो आप अंडरस्टैंड करते हैं कि कोई मिस्टेक होना, लेकिन ऑडिटिंग लैंग्वेज में वी डू नॉट यूज द वर्ड मिस्टेक, वी यूज द वर्ड misstatements which happens due to errors or frauds or both. So misstatements, what form a misstatement can take, what are the different types of misstatements? Say a simple example of misstatement is कि मैंने कोई बिल में अमाउंट मेरे पास 5,000 का है और अकाउंटेंट ने उसकी एंट्री 50,000 की कर दी. दिस कैन बी simple error also, unintentional error, or there may be, or the accountant may be committing a sort of fraud. So it is an example of misstatement because there is a difference in amount. Here what it is, there is difference in amount. The entry was required to be made in books of accounts for 5,000, but it is made for 50,000. So it is an example of misstatement arising due to difference in amount. Okay, or there can be misstatement arising because of classification. Wrong head में classify कर देना, उसको भी that is also an example of misstatement. Or there can be an misstatement arising out of presentation or disclosure. So students, like say in schedule 3, you know, disclosures of many things have to be made. Okay, so if disclosure is not made in accordance with the applicable reporting framework, then it is also a misstatement. Or if say presentation of the financial statement is not in accordance with the reporting framework, say the reporting framework requires you to present your financial statements in a format, in a way describing different schedules and different things, but the financial statements are not presented in that way. So it is also an example of misstatement. So misstatement, the meaning of misstatement, students, is not restricted to difference in figures. It is, remember guys, that is very important. It is not restricted to difference in figures only. It is rather its meaning includes difference in amounts or figures, difference in classification, difference in presentation, and difference in disclosure. Okay, so you can remember all these 4 words by preparing an acronym, say ACPD. So these are all 4 important key terms, and you have to remember these key terms as these are. जैसे हैं वैसे ही स्टूडेंट्स आपको इनको याद करना है, रिमेंबर करना है. दीज आर वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ओके, so misstatement refers to a difference between the amount, classification, presentation, or disclosure of a reported financial statement item. So what is reported financial statement item? Anything which is there in the financial statement, like any expense, machinery repair account, say, or salaries, wages, packing expenses, or say debtors, creditors. All these are financial statement items. So of a reported financial statement item, it means which is there, which is reported there in the financial statements, and the amount, classification, presentation, or disclosure which should have been there in accordance with the applicable reporting framework. जो होना चाहिए था और जो रिपोर्टेड है उसके बीच में जो डिफरेंस है उसको मिसस्टेटमेंट कहते हैं. एज सिंपल एज दैट. As simple as that. So misstatements can arise from error or fraud. So I have prepared an acronym like ACPD. You can prepare any other acronym, guys. So A stands for amount, difference in amount. C stands for classification, and P for presentation, and D for disclosure. क्लियर स्टूडेंट्स, आपको मिस स्टेटमेंट का मतलब समझ में आ गया. We have been reading this term from chapter 1, from the very first page of chapter 1. We have been reading about this term misstatement. So students, as I have been telling you that as we move further in the syllabus, many of your doubts, many of your queries would be resolved automatically. These would be resolved naturally. Okay. So example of misstatements could be, so these are some examples given here. So students, you can prepare any n number of examples. Misstatements are not restricted to these 5 or 6 examples. These can be n things. Like suppose an item of capital expenditure has been charged to revenue. Like I have given you an example that say machinery of 1 lakh has been purchased by a company and it is debited to machinery repair account. Instead of debiting it to the machinery account, it is booked as an expense in machinery repair account. So it is an example of misstatement, or vice versa, or opposite of it. Or say an item has been or a say revenue item which should be charged to revenue account, which should be charged to expenses account, it has been capitalized. So any number of examples can be there. Difference in disclosure of a financial statement items with regard to applicable reporting framework. Like say guys, you are auditing balance sheet of a company, and schedule 3 requires some disclosure to be made, say in case of inventories. Okay, schedule 3 of the Companies Act requires certain disclosures to be made in case of inventories. Now in the financial statements, the disclosures are not made that way. So there is a difference in disclosures which should be made in accordance with schedule 3 and which are actually made. So it is also an example of misstatement. So this is a misstatement arising because of disclosures, arising because of difference in disclosures. Next is selection or application of inappropriate accounting policies. Like say company selects inappropriate accounting policy, which is not suitable to its circumstances. So it is also a sort of misstatement. Or say intentional booking of fake expenses in profit and loss account. Again, fake expenses are booked in profit and loss account to lower the profits. So this is again an example of misstatements. Overstating inventories to artificially increase the profits, or understating inventories to decrease the profits and to lower the tax liabilities. These are also example of misstatements. Not making provision for irrecoverable debts, for writing of those debts. These are again examples of misstatements which lead to overvaluation of trade receivables, which leads to overvaluation of debtors. Okay. So risk of material misstatement, students, you have to understand it exists at 2 levels. Risk of material misstatement, students, it operates at 2 levels. Now one level is overall financial statement level and another level is assertion level. One level is overall financial statement level and another is assertion level. Okay, so one is that the financial statements as a whole in totality, what is the chance of their being materially misstated? This is known as risk of material misstatement at overall financial statement level. And one is the risk of material misstatement which is existing at the level of transactions, at the level of account balances and disclosures. Okay, so you have to understand, this is also an important point, that risk of material misstatement exists. One is at overall financial statement level in the context of financial statements as a whole, and another is in respect to transactions, balances, account balances and disclosures. Okay, so the risk, the chance of material misstatement at overall financial statement level is the risk that material misstatements are present in many accounts. Okay, in many accounts, that these are pervasive. These are there in many account balances, many transactions, many heads of accounts, giving a distorted picture of financial statements as a whole. So this is what we call as a risk of material misstatement at overall financial statement level. And second is risk of material misstatement at assertion level. So assertion level means at the level of transactions, at the say the probability of risk of material misstatement in purchases, or the probability of risk of misstatements in sales, or the probability of risk of material misstatements in say some expense, in say machinery repair expenses. So these are risk of material, these are known as risk of material misstatement at assertion level, or say risk of material misstatement in trade payables. It is an example of risk of material misstatement pertaining to relating to account balances. तो assertion स्टूडेंट, जैसे कि मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया था, assertions हम चैप्टर 4 में डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे. आप इस मूवमेंट पे इतना समझ लीजिए कि जो कुछ फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में प्रेजेंट किया है आपको, whatever is appearing in financial statements, these are all assertions by management. These are all assertions by management. Assertion means asserting something, saying something with belief. Say if sales are there in the profit and loss account for rupees 100 crore, it means that management is asserting that sales of rupees 100 crores have in fact taken place during the year. So in this context, everything which we say, which is reflected in financial statements, is an assertion of some sort or another. Like say property, plant and equipment, fixed asset balance is appearing in the balance sheet. So it says something. What does it say? It says that so much of fixed assets which are appearing in the financial statements, these in fact these exist. So this is also an assertion, and these also state, and another kind of assertion which we can derive from it is that these are being used for the purpose of business. So these are all example of assertions. Assertion means anything which is stated. So every item in financial statements is this some sort of assertion made by management. Why it is so? Why it is made by management? Because preparation of financial statements is the responsibility of management. So all assertions also belong to management. These are also made by management. Okay, students. So assertion के बारे में जैसे कि मैंने आपको कहा है, we shall be studying it in greater detail, different type of assertions in chapter 4. For the time being, you can understand so much. Okay, students. So components of risk of material misstatement. Now, at the beginning, students, we had understood that risk of material misstatement consists of, so I am writing it for short, ROMM, risk of material misstatement. Students, you don't have to use this word, this abbreviation in your exam. This is just for shortening purposes. You cannot use such kind of abbreviation in your exam. Okay. So risk of material misstatement consists of inherent risk and control risk. And one very important, guys, students, when one very important point, that both these risks, inherent risk and control risks, these risks belong to the entity. These risks belong to the company, to the organization. These cannot be influenced by the auditor. These can't be influenced by the auditor. Why? Why it is so? Why it is so, students? Because these are entities risks. These are companies risks. Like agar say if a company is engaged in cash sales, so it is its business model. It is doing its business in such a way. So this inherent risk, this cannot be changed by the auditor. It is there. It belongs to the company. It belongs to that organization. And similarly, control risk. Now, control risk again. We have understood that an organization has some system, has a control system to carry on its operations efficiently and effectively. So whose responsibility is to devise such a control system? Auditor doesn't have a responsibility to devise such a control system. It is devised, it is designed, devised, maintained. Everything of it is done by the company, by the management. So the control risk is always of the company. It is also always of the entity, of the organization. The auditor cannot influence a control risk. So remember the key point, that auditor cannot influence inherent risk and control risk. These are entities risk. So अगर आप कहते हैं, now you would say, when the auditor cannot influence, then why we are studying it here? The purpose of studying it here is to assess the risk of material misstatement, so that the auditor can know, the auditor can identify what are the risk prone areas where his procedures should be focused, where his procedures should be geared. Okay, so remember, students, again I am repeating it. Again, students, I am repeating it, that inherent risk and control risk, these both risks belong to the entity. These cannot be influenced by the auditor. The auditor has nothing, no mechanism with him to lower or to lower these inherent or control risks. He can only identify, he can only assess that whether inherent risk is high or whether control risk is high, whether control risk is low or whether inherent risk is low. He can only identify and assess. He cannot influence both of these risks. So इसका क्या मतलब निकला स्टूडेंट्स? that inherent risk और control risk, जो कि risk of material misstatement के components हैं, these cannot be changed by the auditor. The auditor can only assess, the auditor can only evaluate, the auditor can only ascertain. Okay, he can only make an estimate. He cannot change, he cannot influence both these risks. So since he cannot influence inherent risk and control risk, therefore he cannot influence risk of material misstatement, because risk of material misstatement is again a function of, a product of inherent risk and control risk. Clear guys? So students, we had learned the meaning of inherent risk generally broadly in layman's language, in common language, in understandable language. Now we shall see the meaning of inherent risk in technical language. What is there written in essay? Okay, and we shall try to understand that what is the meaning of this definition which is written in essay, and you have to remember this and try to correlate it with your understanding. So inherent risk students is the susceptibility of an assertion about a class of transactions, account balance or disclosure that could be material either individually or when aggregated with other misstatements. Susceptibility of an assertion. So students, what is susceptibility? So inherent risk is susceptibility of an assertion. So हम इसको स्टूडेंट्स ब्रेक कर लेते हैं. Susceptibility of an assertion, account balance or disclosure. So susceptibility का क्या मतलब है स्टूडेंट्स? Susceptibility means sensitive. Prone to misstatements. इसका क्या मतलब है? चांसेस उसमें उस चीज के ज्यादा है. If say I'll give you a common life example, like say if I say I am susceptible to cold, तो किसी को cold जल्दी हो जाता है. So this is the meaning of susceptibility, of falling prey, of being prone. ठीक है students? So inherent risk is the susceptibility of an assertion about a class of transaction or account balance or disclosure to a misstatement. So sensitivity of an assertion about a class of transaction, account balance or disclosure to a misstatement. So the possibility, the chance that this account balance or this transaction is more likely to be misstated, that could be material either individually or when aggregated with other misstatements before consideration of any related controls. So before considering the control system of the organization, whether transactions of the entity are inherently risky. So it basically means to say that chance, the probability, the sensitivity of an assertion relating to three things. Remember these three things. Assertion always relates to these three things. One thing is transaction, second thing is account balances, third thing is disclosures. Okay. So susceptibility of an assertion about class of transaction, account balances or disclosure to a misstatement. sensitivity of an assertion to a misstatement that could be material, which could be significant, which could be important, okay, either on by itself or when combined with other misstatements before consideration of any related controls. Now this is also important. So students, कई बार आता है कि आप ये डेफिनेशन लर्न करते हुए ये वाला पार्ट भूल जाते हैं, बट दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट इनहेरेंट रिस्क इज कंसिडर्ड बिफोर कंसिडरेशन ऑफ एनी कंट्रोल्स. कंट्रोल्स कम आफ्टरवर्ड्स. पहले तो कि वो ट्रांजैक्शन रिस्की हैं कि नहीं है. रिस्की तो सब है, लेकिन किस डिग्री का रिस्क है, that has to be assessed. Okay, so inherent risk is always considered before consideration of any internal control, before consideration of any sort of internal control. So inherent risk is higher for some assertions and lower for some. Like it may be high for complex calculations. Say students, for example, a company has acquired some business, or it has sold some business. It has sold some part of its business, or it has acquired a fresh business. It has acquired some entity. So obviously the transactions relating to these would be involving complex calculations. So there would be chances that probability of mistakes, the probability of misstatements are greater, are higher in such a scenario. So in such a case, inherent risk is greater. Okay, students, and certain other factors also influence inherent risk. Like students, कोई company is manufacturing a product, say using a certain technology, and of late that technology is becoming outdated from the market, and some new machines have come in the market for manufacturing that product, which make those products in a better way and efficiently. But the company is not, the company we are talking about, that is not ready to change its outdated machinery. So what would happen? The company may go out of business in near future. So in such type of scenario, obviously the risk of material misstatement is greater. Okay, because why? Because of greater inherent risk, because of larger inherent risk which is present because of the type of the transactions, because of the nature of the transactions which are being carried out by the company. Okay. Now some examples of inherent risk, students, which is given in your module as a box item. Like students, say company is operating in some area, in some new area. Okay, the company's business model is not yet established. So some new field of business has come up and many companies have, say, joined, but the business model is not yet established and many companies have failed. So suppose you are also auditor of such a company, of one such company. Now in the industry, 10 now, say 8 out of 10 companies have failed. And you are also, say, the auditor of one such company, 9th company, which has not yet failed. But how would you assess its inherent risk? you would assess its inherent risk as higher, as greater, because in keeping in view overall industry scenario, you would see that there are that many companies are failing in this business area. So there are chances of this company of you are the which you are the auditor also failing. So inherent risk would be greater. So you would like to be more careful while verifying all the things in the financial statements, and while planning and performing audit procedures. Okay, students. Clear guys? Inherent risk students आपको clear है? Yes, students, inherent risk. Now we come to control risk. Now, control risk is the risk that the control system which the management has devised that the control system which the management has devised does not give desired results. I have already given you 2-3 examples कि मैनेजमेंट ने कोई कंट्रोल सिस्टम डेवलप किया कि सपोज कि उसकी जो एसेट्स हैं दीज आर नॉट स्टोलन, ते जो लो वैल्यू एसेट्स हैं दीज आर नॉट स्टोलन, बट स्टिल द सिस्टम is not able to detect such things. Like say the management has installed CCTV cameras at many places, but these CCTV cameras are not serviced regular at the required intervals. जिस आदमी को AMC दी है उसका CCTV कैमरास की वो 2-2 साल आता ही नहीं है. Okay, so this is a one type of very simple example, elementary sort of example. So the control risk is basically the risk that the control system devised by a company for carrying out its operations efficiently and effectively is not able to produce the desired results. It is not able to prevent misstatements from happening. Okay, so what is the technical definition? Control risk is the risk that a misstatement that could occur in an assertion. Again, assertion is about 3 things. Remember students, ये आप इसको याद कर लें. assertion हमेशा 3 चीजों के बारे में है, और आप ये 3 phrases assertion के बारे में लिखते हुए कहीं भी यूज कर सकते हैं. So assertion relates to class of transactions, number 1, account balances, number 2, and disclosures, number 3. Okay, so control risk is a risk that misstatement could occur in an assertion about a class of transaction, account balance or disclosure, and that could be material. Same वही लाइन है स्टूडेंट्स जो inherent risk में थी. So that could be material either individually or aggregated with others or combined with other misstatements, will not be prevented, detected or corrected on a timely basis by entity's internal control. So basically इसका मतलब ये है कि जो एंटिटी का इंटरनल कंट्रोल सिस्टम है वो मिसस्टेटमेंट को प्रिवेंट नहीं कर पाएगा या डिटेक्ट नहीं कर पाएगा, और डिटेक्ट कर भी लिया तो करेक्ट नहीं कर पाएगा. So the control system should be such which should be able to at first place to prevent misstatements from happening. तो सबसे पहले तो कंट्रोल सिस्टम ऐसा होना चाहिए कि वो मिसस्टेटमेंट्स को होने से ही रोक दे. If it is not able to prevent those misstatements, then it should be capable of detecting and correcting those misstatements. So the chance that the control system is not able to prevent misstatements from happening or detecting and correcting misstatements on a timely basis, this is known as the control risk. So obviously, students, you can easily understand that control risk would always be there. It would always be there in every company or any organization. However efficient a control system may be devised by a company, by an organization, there would always be a possibility of bypassing it, because any control system is run by people. So all human limitations come into play while in consideration of control system. Okay, and even in case of automated systems also, there are different risks pertaining to automation also. ओके स्टूडेंट्स, तो अगर स्टूडेंट्स किसी कंपनी का कंट्रोल सिस्टम एफिशिएंट है, इफ कंट्रोल सिस्टम इज एफिशिएंट, देन व्हाट वी वुड से, इफ कंट्रोल सिस्टम इज एफिशिएंट, then what we can conclude about control risk? If the control system of a company is efficient, it is producing the desired results, then what we can say about the control risk of the company, whether control risk would be high or whether it would be low? Yes student, whether it would be high or it would be low. अगर किसी कंपनी का कंट्रोल सिस्टम अच्छा काम कर रहा है, it is giving desired results, then tell me students whether control risk in such a case would be high or it would be low. Simple thing I am asking you. Yes, anybody? None. So control risk in such a case would be low, because the company's system is giving the desired results, it is working efficiently. So control risk would be low, but not zero. It would be low. But opposite, if you consider opposite of it, if the control system of the company itself is not working properly, then if it is not efficient, then what would be the control risk? The control risk would be high. There would be greater chances of misstatements in the financial statements due to inefficient control system. Okay, clear students? So some examples are given in your module regarding control risk. Like, an entity has devised a control that fire extinguishers and smoke detectors are in place and are in working conditions at all time to reduce the risk of damage to inventories caused by fire. कि भाई उसने, कंपनी ने अपने जगह जगह फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर लगा रखे हैं. बड़ा सिंपल एग्जांपल है स्टूडेंट्स, ताकि अगर टू प्रिवेंट फायर रिस्क की अगर फायर हो जाए तो उसको उसी टाइम फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर यूज करके उसको फायर कैन बी कंट्रोल्ड. So, but what is the control risk here? कंपनी ने फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर तो लगा दी है, लेकिन ये हो सकता है फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर एक्सपायर हो गए हो. उसका जो जिस टाइम पे उसकी रिफिलिंग होनी है वो हो ही ना, 1 साल बाद से रिफिलिंग होनी है, तो सो दैट रिफिलिंग इज नॉट बीइंग कैरिड आउट। तो या जो स्मोक डिटेक्टर लगा रखे हैं वो काम ही ना करें, तो so there would be a control risk. This is an example of control risk of the controls not operating in accordance with the outcomes desired by the company. Okay. Now we come to detection risk. Yes, students. Now we come to detection risk. Now detection risk क्या है students? Now students, इससे पहले कि हम डिटेक्शन रिस्क को दोबारा आपके मॉड्यूल से समझे, यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट दिस इज द थिंग विच कैन बी इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय द ऑडिटर. इट इज द थिंग विच इज इन द हैंड्स ऑफ ऑडिटर. ऑडिटर के हाथ में डिटेक्शन रिस्क ही है जिसको कि वो कम कर सकता है, क्योंकि इनहेरेंट रिस्क और कंट्रोल रिस्क में तो उसका ऑडिटर का कोई रोल नहीं है, वो तो मैनेजमेंट के हाथ में है. ऑडिटर उनको असेस कर सकता है. लेकिन अगर ऑडिटर को से लगता है, सपोज इफ द ऑडिटर थिंक्स दैट कंट्रोल रिस्क इज हाई, meaning the control systems are not operating efficiently and effectively, so the auditor would try to lower his detection risk. The auditor would try to lower his detection risk. वो ये नहीं चाहेगा कि कोई भी मिसस्टेटमेंट उसके प्रोसीजर्स डिटेक्ट ना कर पाए. एनी मिसस्टेटमेंट इज लेफ्ट आउट. he would always want that procedures employed by him, that the procedures deployed by him are able to detect the misstatements which are there due to say probable high control risk. Okay. So पहले स्टूडेंट्स इसकी डेफिनेशन देख लेते हैं हम क्या है. Definition of detection risk is: detection risk is the risk that procedures performed by the auditor to reduce risk to an acceptably low level will not detect the misstatement that exists and that could be material. Again the same line which is there in the inherent risk and control risk. So बेसिक मतलब इस डेफिनेशन का क्या है? इस डेफिनेशन का बेसिक मतलब है कि जो ऑडिटर जो प्रोसीजर्स परफॉर्म करेगा, these are not able to detect material misstatements that exists in the financial statements. Okay, so obviously no good auditor would like to give an inappropriate audit opinion, and no good auditor would like to maintain to keep its audit risk at high level. Every auditor would like to keep its audit risk at low level, to an acceptably low level. So if the inherent risk is high or if the control risk is high, the auditor would increase his area of checking. He would increase his area of procedures to reduce the audit risk to a low level. He would try to reduce the audit risk to a low level by increasing his area of checking. Okay, so in this way he would try to lower his detection risk. He would try to lower the possibility that some misstatement remains undetected. that procedures employed by him are not able to detect a misstatement. Okay, so this is the detection risk. Yes, clear guys? Yes students, detection risk clear है आपको? So detection risk consists of two parts. Detection risk consists of two parts, that is sampling risk and non-sampling risk. So detection risk student consists of two parts, that is sampling risk and non-sampling risk. So what is the sampling risk? Sampling risk is the risk that auditor conclusion based on a sample are different from the conclusion if entire population were subjected to the same audit procedure. So students, जैसा कि we know that auditor may work on sample verification on the basis of sample checking. So it can happen that the sample he has chosen to rely upon does not reflect the realities of the whole population, of the whole accounts pertaining to that assertion. So this is the sampling risk. इस सैंपल में सैंपल रिस्क के बेसिस पे जो ऑडिटर अपना कंक्लूजन ले रहा है, जो ऑडिटर कंक्लूजन बना रहा है वो ही गलत हो. तो दिस इज द सैंपलिंग रिस्क. ओके, एंड नॉन सैंपलिंग रिस्क इज द, ये मैंने आपको स्टूडेंट स्टार्टिंग में ही बताया था, नॉन सैंपलिंग रिस्क इज द रिस्क that the auditor reaches an erroneous conclusion. What is erroneous? Erroneous means full of errors. गलत कंक्लूजन, दैट ऑडिटर एक गलत कंक्लूजन पे पहुंच गया बिकॉज ऑफ सम इनएप्रोप्रिएट प्रोसीजर. जैसे आपके मॉड्यूल में एक एग्जांपल दिया हुआ है कि किसी कंपनी में दैट देयर इज ए कंपनी and there is a large amount of work in progress, there is a large amount of stock of work in process. Okay, so but the auditor does not carry out inventory count process, he does not attend inventory count process, and he chooses to rely upon some other procedure which is not suitable. In fact, he should have attended inventory count process, and he should have seen that how the management is calculating quantities relating to work in process, but he has failed to choose any such to choose such procedure, to attend to such procedure. Then this type of risk is called as non-sampling risk, which is not connected with सैंपल्स. तो इसका सैंपल से तो कोई लेना देना नहीं, ऑडिटर ने प्रोसीजर ही गलत अडॉप्ट किया. सो दिस इज नोन एज नॉन सैंपलिंग रिस्क. सो डिटेक्शन रिस्क, रिमेंबर स्टूडेंट्स, डिटेक्शन रिस्क कैन अराइज either out of sampling risk or out of non-sampling risk or both even. So detection risk has two components, sampling risk and non-sampling risk. So how detection risk can be reduced students? Detection risk कम कैसे हो सकता है कि ऑडिटर इस बात की चांसेस को रिड्यूस करना चाहता है कि जो मिस स्टेटमेंट्स हैं अगर कोई फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में, तो वो छूट ना जाए, कि वो डिटेक्ट ना हो पाए, इस बात की पॉसिबिलिटी को रिड्यूस करना चाहता है. सो डिटेक्शन रिस्क मे बी reduced by increasing area of checking, testing larger samples, and by including competent and experienced person in the engagement team. So obviously, how the auditor can reduce the detection risk? He can select larger samples, having larger sample size. से पहले अगर वो छोटा सैंपल ले रहा था तो उसने सैंपल का साइज बढ़ा दिया. मोर नंबर ऑफ आइटम्स आर नाउ इंक्लूडेड. ओके. एंड he may increase other areas of checking which may have been left out, so as to reduce the detection risk, so as to lower the detection risk. And it can also be done by including, by reshuffling his team. एक्सपीरियंस आदमी लो टीम में, कॉम्पिटेंट आदमी लो जो कि मिसस्टेटमेंट्स को डिटेक्ट कर पाए, जिनको नॉलेज है कंपनी की, बिजनेस की, कंपनी के नेचर ऑफ ऑपरेशंस की. क्लियर स्टूडेंट्स? इज दैट क्लियर? डिटेक्शन रिस्क आपको क्लियर है? So we shall take a little break of 5 minutes here, guys. So see you after 5 minutes. Yes, break for 5 minutes. Yes, welcome back, guys. So, students, ये तो we have understood now what is meaning of audit risk and what is included in audit risk. What are the components of audit risk? हमने समझ लिया कि risk of material misstatement और detection risk are two components of audit risk. And risk of material misstatement consists of inherent risk and control risk. Students, now what is not included in audit risk? Which there are some things which we generally perceive to include in audit risk, but technically these are not part of audit risk. So audit risk, students, it is a technical term related to process of auditing. It is a technical term related to process of auditing. It does not refer to auditor's business risk. वो मेरे business risk को cover नहीं करती कि कल को अगर suppose if I give an inappropriate opinion, so my goodwill will be lost, my clients would go away, or there would or I would be I might face some regulatory action. Okay. So remember that audit risk is a technical term relating to process of auditing, relating to process of performing an audit, relating to process of carrying out an audit. Okay, it does not include an auditor's business or professional risk relating to loss from litigation, adverse publicity, or other events arising in connection with audit of financial statements. Okay. And students, एक और important बात, this is the first point which is not included in audit risk. Okay. And what is the second point which is not included in audit risk? This is also very important. So students, we had understood that audit risk is the chance, it is the risk that auditor expresses an inappropriate opinion when financial statements are misstated. But the reverse of it is not true. That say the auditor expresses an inappropriate opinion when financial statements, when there are no misstatements in financial statements. Okay, like say when the financial statements are not materially misstated, there are no errors or frauds in financial statement, but auditor says so. He does not give a clean sheet to the company, whereas he was required to give that. So, but this opposite of it is, this portion is not included in audit risk. Why? Because this risk is very insignificant. Because the chances of it happening are very, very remote. कि फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में कोई एरर्स या फ्रॉड नहीं है, कोई मिसस्टेटमेंट नहीं है, और ऑडिटर अपनी रिपोर्ट में लिख दे कि ऐसा है. So the chances of happening it are very, very remote. So that is why this is not included in audit risk. Okay, so both these things, students, are not included in audit risk. And another thing, assessment of risk, a matter of professional judgment. Now students, you have to understand that assessment of risk, it is a matter of professional judgment for the auditor. It is not something which can be measured precisely. That I would measure that say detection risk is 1 or point something. It is not that way. That it is it is not capable of being measured precisely. It is just a assessment. It is just an evaluation which depends upon the professional judgment of the auditor. It is not capable of precise measurement. Okay. And सो स्टूडेंट्स आप भी सोच रहे होंगे कि ये प्रोफेशनल जजमेंट क्या है. प्रोफेशनल जजमेंट वी हैव बीन यूजिंग सिंस चैप्टर 1. सो प्रोफेशनल जजमेंट मींस जो भी ऑडिटर ने अभी तक पढ़ा है, जो उसकी नॉलेज है, जो उसका एक्सपीरियंस है, ओके, वो he uses all his knowledge and experience which he has gained to arrive at reasonable judgments. Okay, so that he is able to use his skills, he is able to use his knowledge, he is able to use his experience to arrive at the required judgments, depending upon the circumstances which are prevailing in every situation. So every situation can have different circumstances, and auditor has to apply his professional judgment in each and every different audit situation. Remember guys that all situations, all every audit situation is different from one another. Okay, no two audit situations are completely same. So this is the checkbox, and this is the diagram which gives you an overview, of the chapter, of the topic. So audit risk consists of risk of material misstatement and detection risk. It is a function of two things, and risk of material misstatement is again broken into inherent risk and control risk, and detection risk is broken into sampling risk and non-sampling risk. Yes. And audit risk is equal to risk of material misstatement multiplied by detection risk. Remember this formula guys. And risk of material misstatement is again can be broken into inherent risk and control risk. So the formula becomes inherent risk multiplied by control risk multiplied by detection risk. So remember this students, mathematical equation also. Remember this mathematical equation also. So मैं स्टूडेंट्स आई थिंक आज के इसमें टॉपिक में कई सारी नई चीजें हैं और टेक्निकल चीजें हैं. तो हम इसको और ज्यादा इस टॉपिक को यहाँ पे नहीं बढ़ाते, और इसको ही वी ट्राई टू रिवाइज, एंड आई शैल आल्सो टेक योर क्वेरीज नाउ. तो स्टूडेंट्स ये कुछ इट सीम्स दैट देयर इज सम प्रॉब्लम इन क्वेरी लिंक because no mail has come after 8:12. So I have already told the technical person to resolve. So till that time, all the mails which have come up till 8:12, I am taking up. So if the problem is resolved, then we shall be taking remaining mails also. Otherwise, students, you would have to make trouble to send these again if you have any doubts, so that these can be taken in next session. That is tomorrow. Yes. यस, ममता यादव। सैम्पलिंग और नॉन सैम्पलिंग रिस्क में ममता, शायद आपको अब सैम्पलिंग और नॉन रिस्क सैम्पलिंग रिस्क का मीनिंग समझ में आ गया होगा, आपने स्टार्टिंग में ही बता दिया। सो सैम्पलिंग रिस्क और नॉन सैम्पलिंग रिस्क एक बार मैं दोबारा बता देता हूं आपको। ममता, सैम्पलिंग रिस्क इज द रिस्क रिलेटिंग टू सैंपल्स, कि जो सैंपल ऑडिटर ने लिया है वो टोटल पॉपुलेशन का रिफ्लेक्टिव नहीं है। देयर इज ए पॉसिबिलिटी, वो किसी भी सैंपल में हो सकती है, ये एक स्टैटिस्टिकल पॉसिबिलिटी है। ओके। सेकंड इज नॉन सैंपलिंग रिस्क। नॉन सैंपलिंग रिस्क इज द रिस्क which is related not to obtaining of samples. It is not related to samples. It may relate to, say, auditor performing an inappropriate audit procedures. जैसे कि ममता, you have studied in an example कि एक कंपनी में there is sizable amount of work in process, that considerable stock remains in work in progress. Okay, so what the auditor should have done in such a situation? Auditor should have attended physical inventory count, and he should have seen how the management is arriving at the quantities of work in progress, whether that system is proper or not. He should have seen that, but he has chosen to say ignore that. But he say relies on some other procedures. Say he is just relying on some internal records of the company. Okay, but he has missed out on that procedure which could have revealed misstatements. So this is called as non-sampling risk. It has nothing to do with the samples. Okay. Yes, Santosh Das, please send us materials. We will take care of. Yes, Santosh, I will be uploading key learning points, some important points in each chapter. So chapter 1, chapter 2, I have already uploaded. Chapter 3, you will also find in as we move along. But students, आपको पूरा चैप्टर पढ़ना है। इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स देने का ये मतलब नहीं है कि आप वही इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स करें, आपको पूरे चैप्टर की अंडरस्टैंडिंग लेनी है। इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स देने का मतलब है ताकि उस पर आप थोड़ा ज्यादा फोकस रख सकते हैं। Yes, Mukteshwari, you are saying whether auditor will give inappropriate opinion knowingly or unknowingly will be audit risk. Yes, you are right, Mukteshwari. चाहे knowingly दे या unknowingly दे, it is the chance. Now what we are talking about is the chance, whether it happens knowingly or unknowingly. So everybody, every auditor says would say that it has happened unknowingly. Who would like to say that it has happened knowingly? Okay. Yes, गौरव, एग्जाम्पल इनहेरेंट रिस्क का आपके मॉड्यूल में दिए गए हैं। सपोज जैसे मैंने आपको एक एग्जाम्पल बताया था, कोई कंपनी एक से फैब्रिक बना रही है किसी मशीनरी से, और उस फील्ड में नई टेक्नोलॉजी आ गई है, ऑटोमेटेड मशीन्स आ गई हैं, जिससे कि वो अच्छी क्वालिटी का फैब्रिक बन सकता है। and with in a lesser time, but the company is not replacing those machines. So it is working with outdated technology. So ultimately इससे क्या हो रहा है, कंपनी के रेवेन्यूज पे फर्क पड़ रहा है, and company might go out of business. So it is again example of inherent risk which is happening because of the nature of business of which is being carried out by the company. Okay. Yes, Vishal Jindal, this is to say that employees were careless and negligent. Yes. If the controls are not functioning properly, one of the reason could be, it can be the reason that employees were careless and negligent. Yes, Karthik, you are saying these risks are checked by auditors during audit to avoid these risks may happen, sir. No, Karthik, the purpose of all this exercise is to identify and assess risk of material misstatement. So you can understand it is a sort of theoretical model. ये एक मॉडल बनाया गया है कि ऑडिटर ऑडिट रिस्क को समझ सके कि वो किन किन चीजों से इफेक्ट होता है, दैट विच आर द फैक्टर्स विच इन्फ्लुएंस ऑडिट रिस्क, एंड सो दैट he is able to assess his audit risk by studying its components. Okay. Yes, Tushar, what you are saying, you are saying, please say in Hindi once more कि इस टॉपिक की बात कर रहे हैं. So you drop your mail. So when the query link will start working, we will see what you are saying. Yes, Vaishali Biddal, detection risk is always and depends upon degree. So detection risk, Vaishali, you have to understand that it is the only thing which is in hands of auditor, and it obviously it depends upon the inherent risk and control risk. Say if an auditor assesses inherent risk to be high, he would try to keep his detection risk low. Why? To keep the audit risk low. अगर किसी कंपनी में इनहेरेंट रिस्क हाई है या कंट्रोल रिस्क हाई है, तो द ऑडिटर वुड लाइक टू कीप डिटेक्शन रिस्क लो, दैट नथिंग रिमेन्स अनडिटेक्टेड. ही वुड like to maintain this probability at lower level. Why? To reduce audit risk at low level. Agar if say in such a situation, if inherent risk is high and control risk is high, the auditor keeps detection risk at high level. So where the audit risk would be going, it would jump many times. So no auditor would like such a situation. Okay. Yes, Durga, you are asking materially misstated means. Materially misstated means significant misstatements हैं जहां पे materially misstated is derived from the words material misstatement. Material means significant. Misstatements mean misstated is derived from misstatements. Misstatements का मतलब हमने पढ़ा है अभी चैप्टर में. Okay. Yes, Srinivasan, you are asking what is the acceptable level of audit risk in the industry. Now, Srinivasan, there is no such parameter. It has to be assessed by the auditor in every audit according to his professional judgment. And he has to keep it at low level. There is no such thing that it is a factor of 9, it is a factor of 8. It is a matter of professional judgment. Yes, probability, Karthik, it can be any probability. Even chance of 25% chance of something happening is also a probability. So risk would be there na. अगर किसी चीज, if there is a 25% chance that it will rain tomorrow, so probability तो है ना, chances तो है, it may happen or not. So what we are talking about is chance. What we are talking about is risk. Yes, Priyanka Pandey, you are saying unpleasant. Unpleasant, Priyanka, means not desirable. Now say the auditor gives an inappropriate opinion. If he gives an inappropriate opinion when financial statements are materially misstated, then he might land himself in some trouble, in some legal trouble. Action may be initiated against the auditor. So that is an unpleasant situation. That is an example of an unpleasant situation. Now, why somebody would try to land himself or herself in an unpleasant situation? This situation would not be desired by anybody. So this is the meaning of unpleasant situation. Yes, Lavanya, you are saying we know audit is giving lower assurance. Then what is consequence in audit risk? No, Lavanya, your question is wrong. Audit does not give lower assurance. Audit gives reasonable assurance, which is a high level of assurance. The auditor assesses audit risk. The purpose of it is so that he does not end up in giving a wrong report. The purpose is only this much. Material misstatement, Sangeeta, why? Now I have explained many times. So probably your query is cleared. Sangeeta, material misstatement. Material means significant. Misstatements, I have given you the definition and I have also explained. Yes, Ashok Kharyal, you are saying please explain amount class ACPD acronym. मैंने आपको स्टूडेंट एक याद करने के लिए ट्रिक बताई है कि इतना सारा सिलेबस है, जब आप एग्जाम में इतने सारे वर्ड्स में कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं तो याद करने के लिए आप इन चीजों को की इनिशियल वर्ड से याद कर सकते हैं, आप किसी भी चीज में बना सकते हैं. तो एसीपीडी हमने बनाया मिस स्टेटमेंट के लिए कि जो डिफरेंस है अमाउंट, क्लासिफिकेशन, प्रेजेंटेशन और डिस्क्लोजर में, जो कि होना चाहिए और जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में है उसमें जो डिफरेंस है, दैट इज मिस स्टेटमेंट. दैट रिलेट्स टू अमाउंट, क्लासिफिकेशन, प्रेजेंटेशन एंड डिस्क्लोजर. ओके. Yes, Bhavika Kumari, you are saying what is the benefit of not making provision for debt? से अगर प्रोविजन फॉर डेट नहीं बनाया आपने तो प्रॉफिट्स ओवरस्टेटेड हैं. प्रॉफिट्स ओवरस्टेटेड हैं. मैनेजमेंट की तरफ से ये बेनिफिट है कि मैनेजमेंट वांट्स टू शो मोर प्रॉफिट्स, से टू अवेल फाइनेंसेस from bank or to avail finances from investors, whereas its actual profit is lower. जो पैसा आना ही नहीं है और उसको बुक्स में मैं शो कर रहा हूं कि ये आएगा, तो इसका मतलब मैं लॉसेस अपने नहीं बुक कर रहा, तो प्रॉफिट्स मेरा ओवरस्टेटेड है, which is giving a distorted picture, which would lead to profits being overstated. Okay, Bhavika Kumari, I hope it is clear to you. Yes, Tanu Vishkarma, assertion level. Assertion मैं पहले भी एक्सप्लेन कर चुका हूं. item of financial statement is assertion, you can understand. Okay, the management is asserting. When the management is asserting something, it is saying something with belief, it is an assertion. Okay, like expenses are stated, liabilities are stated, assets are stated in the financial statements, revenue, incomes are stated. These are all assertions by management. Yes, Gunjan, yes, you are saying correctly. Shivam, yes, declaring something is asserting. Yes. Vaishali Bindal, material misstatements at overall example. Yes. वैशाली ओवरऑल लेवल पे, फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट लेवल पे मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट का मतलब है जब मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट इतनी ज्यादा है कि वो एक अकाउंट को इफेक्ट नहीं कर रही, वो पूरी की पूरी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स को इफेक्ट कर रही है। से वो आपके प्रॉफिट्स को भी इफेक्ट कर रही हैं, वो आपके रेवेन्यूज को भी इफेक्ट कर रही हैं, वो आपके ट्रेड रिसीवेबल्स को भी इफेक्ट कर रही हैं, वो कई चीजों को इफेक्ट कर रही हैं, जिससे कि आपकी पूरी की पूरी फाइनेंशियल पिक्चर जो कंपनी की है, जो एंटिटी की है, पूरी की पूरी स्टेट ऑफ अफेयर वो बिगड़ जाती है, वो बिगड़ी हुई है। इट इज ए डिस्टॉर्टेड स्टेट ऑफ अफेयर्स। ओके, यस। फिर असर्शन प्रियंका पांडे, सेम क्वेश्चन। Yes, Devinder Singh, material misstatement, what error or human mistake or known fake? Yes, material misstatement, Devinder Singh, it can happen both due to error, it can be human error, it can be a genuine error, or it can be intentional error. So if it is an intentional error, we call it as a fraud. If some fake bills uh, have been reflected in books of accounts, then we call it as a fraud. If 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 there is some genuine mistake, then we call it as an error. Okay, so material misstatement can arise either due to error or due to fraud or due to both. So it can be a human genuine mistake, or it can be intentional mistake, a fake mistake. Yes. Devender Singh, what is meaning of inherent? Inherent means coming from within. I have explained at the very outset, at the very beginning. It means coming from within, like inherent risk, like risk which is coming from within the business, which is coming from the nature of transactions itself. क्योंकि वो कंपनी ऐसी ट्रांजेक्शन्स कर रही है वो जो ज्यादा रिस्की है, so that way we call it as a inherent risk. Inherent means which is present in it, which is inbuilt in it, जो उसके अंदर है. Yes. Assertion in हिंदी, assertion गुंजन जो है मैं बता चुका हूं आपको, इसके बारे में हम डिटेल में चैप्टर 4 में पढ़ेंगे. श्रीनिवासन, auditor tries to reduce audit risk, and audit risk contains both material misstatement and detention. No, it is detection risk. Srinivasan, write properly, otherwise exams you would make such mistakes in exams also. It is detection risk, not detention. So is this right to assume that auditor is indirectly responsible for? No, auditor is not responsible for inherent risk and control risk. These are the two components which are not in control of the auditor. His control is only on detection risk. He can only influence detection risk. Okay. So after 8:12, no query has come. Probably the link is not working. And we'll see once again if the link is working or not. No, guys, sorry. The problem is still not resolved. I have already requested technical person to resolve this problem. So in case any of your doubts have remained unanswered, so you please send your mails. I'll make it a point to see in our next lecture. So for the time being, we can also do some question, guys, and do answer these questions, guys. Do answer these questions, because it can happen that link can start working after some time, so that I am able to see your answers and to see your doubts also. Otherwise, students, you would have to again send your doubts of those students which have not yet been resolved. So students, in your papers, in your descriptive mark 70 mark papers, the practice till now has been to that a first question comes of correct incorrect type. You are given some statements and you have to give reasons for that whether these statements are correct or incorrect. Along with reason, you would have to give reason, you have to give a proper reason also. So each question carries 2 marks, and there are 7 statements which you have to state that whether these are correct or incorrect. So each statement carries 2 marks, so 14 marks question is this. This is a compulsory question in your paper up till now, whatever the syllabus till last time was. So this question has been asked in intermediate auditing. So now in such type of questions, students, you have to write 2 things. Number 1, whether this statement is correct or incorrect, and number 2, what is the reason for it. Whether you write 1 line or 2 line, it doesn't matter, but you have to write the correct reason of it. If it is correct, then you have to state reason. If it is incorrect, then you have to state reason. And important thing is that if you do not write the reason and just write that it is correct or incorrect, you are going to get 0. No credit would be given. So it is necessary and practical to measure audit risk precisely. Now, students, tell me whether this statement is correct or incorrect. Yes, students. It is necessary and practical to measure audit risk precisely. क्या ये स्टूडेंट्स ये स्टेटमेंट करेक्ट है या इनकरेक्ट है? It is necessary and practical to measure audit risk precisely. Yes, students. तो देखिए स्टूडेंट्स, आप मेल भेजते रहिए, क्या पता क्वेरी लिंक चालू हो जाए एंड द प्रॉब्लम इज रिजॉल्व. Yes. Whether this statement is correct or incorrect. So guys, this statement, if you look at this statement and read it carefully, then it uses the word precisely. So this statement is incorrect. We have understood that it is not possible to measure audit risk precisely. So you would write that this statement is incorrect. It is not practical and necessary to measure audit risk precisely. It depends upon auditor's professional judgment. It is not capable of being measured precisely. Only these 1 or 2 lines would be sufficient, and you would be getting 2 out of 2 marks. If you simply write that this is incorrect, you would be getting 0. Okay. Number 2. Risk of material misstatement comprises inherent risk, control risk, and audit risk. Risk of material misstatement comprises inherent risk, control risk, and audit risk. Yes, yes. Okay. So students, आपकी query link भी problem resolve हो गई है. So we'll take your queries also. So quickly, guys. Risk of material misstatement comprises inherent risk, control risk, and audit risk. Whether this statement is correct or not. Again, this statement is incorrect. Because why? Risk of material misstatement comprises of only inherent risk and control risk. These are 2 components. Audit risk is not one of the components. So you would write in the paper that risk of material misstatement consists of 2 components, inherent risk and control risk. Audit risk is not a component of risk of material misstatement. Rather, risk of material misstatement is a component of audit risk. Okay. So this way you have to write and say that this statement is incorrect. Number 3. A chartered accountant is auditing accounts of a company for the first time. Client is new to him. Detection risk in such a situation would be high. Yes. Question number 3. एक सीए है, वो किसी कंपनी के अकाउंट्स को पहली बार ऑडिट कर रहा है और कंपनी क्लाइंट न्यू है उसके लिए, तो क्या डिटेक्शन रिस्क इस सिचुएशन में हाई होगा? वेदर दिस स्टेटमेंट इज करेक्ट और इनकरेक्ट? यस. क्वेश्चन नंबर 3. Yes, very well done, guys. This you have answered rightly. This statement is correct. जब क्लाइंट न्यू है तो ऑडिटर को कंपनी के बारे में कुछ पता नहीं, उसको कोई नॉलेज नहीं है, तो चांसेस क्या है कि वो मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट वो डिटेक्ट ना कर पाए, पूरी कुछ छूट जाए, अनडिटेक्टेड रह जाए. चांसेस वुड बी हाई. So detection risk in such a situation would be high. So detection risk in such a situation would be high. Number 4. An auditor is going through past year's financial. These students, this you can leave. This we have still not done. This topic. So this you can leave. Number 5. A company is planning to list on Bombay Stock Exchange next year. Now, audit risk is likely to be low for current year's audit. Yes. Question number 5. A company is planning to list on Bombay Stock Exchange next year. एक कंपनी है, उसके शेयर जो है बॉम्बे स्टॉक एक्सचेंज पे लिस्ट होने वाले हैं अगले साल. आप करंट ईयर का ऑडिट कर रहे हैं, तो ऑडिट रिस्क को आप कैसे असेस करेंगे? ऑडिट रिस्क लो होगा, आप लो असेस करेंगे इस पॉइंट के बेस पे, खाली इस पॉइंट के बेस पे समझिए. क्या ऑडिट रिस्क आप लो असेस करेंगे या हाई असेस करेंगे? यस यस, एनी आंसर्स? यस स्टूडेंट्स। फिर स्टूडेंट्स देखिए, अब थोड़ा सा अब लॉजिकली भी आपको सोचना पड़ेगा। कोई कंपनी जो है लिस्टिंग हो रही है, उसकी उसके शेयर्स लिस्ट हो रहे हैं स्टॉक एक्सचेंज पे, तो ऑब्वियसली जो लिस्ट कंपनियां हो रही होती है वो अपनी फाइनेंशियल पोजीशंस बेटर पोर्ट्रे करने की कोशिश करती हैं, ताकि पैसा पब्लिक से आ सके, शेयर होल्डर्स प्रोस्पेक्टिव इन्वेस्टर से पैसा आ सके। तो उसमें क्या होता है, देयर आर मोर चांसेस ऑफ misstatements in financial statements. There would be chances that financial that the company is trying to show its rosy picture then what it is actually. So उस केस में क्या होगा, उस केस में क्या ऑडिट रिस्क लो होगा कि हाई होगा? ऑडिट रिस्क वुड बी हाई। तो दिस इज ऑल्सो एन इनकरेक्ट। सो क्वेश्चंस स्टूडेंट थोड़े मुश्किल थे आपके लिए, क्योंकि फर्स्ट टाइम है, टॉपिक आप अभी फेमिलियराइज हो रहे हैं, और ये क्वेश्चन भी थोड़े ट्रिकी हैं। ओके, तो उसमें कोई बात नहीं, आप टॉपिक को बार बार पढ़ें, उसको समझें और अपने दिमाग में उसको रिमेंबर करें, उसको बिठाएं। लॉजिक मैंने आपको बता दिया है कि क्यों इनकरेक्ट है। होप दिस पॉइंट इज क्लियर टू यू। ओके स्टूडेंट्स, तो आपकी स्टूडेंट्स जो क्वेरीज हैं वो देख लेते हैं, जो बाकी की पेंडिंग क्वेरीज रह गई। यस, यस देवेंद्र सिंह, आप पूछ रहे हैं कि आई डू नॉट नो मीनिंग ऑफ inherent assertions, then what is meaning of your lecture? I am sending you queries to meaning know to know meaning of above words, but you are not telling meaning. Inherent assertions, देवेंद्र आप एजिटेटेड क्यों हो रहे हैं? इनहेरेंट assertions का आपको मतलब समझा तो। इनहेरेंट assertions का मतलब है जो चीजें ट्रांजैक्शंस की नेचर की वजह से आ रही हैं। आप किसी कंपनी में, कोई कंपनी, कोई ट्रांजैक्शंस जिसमें ऐसी हैं जो कि कॉम्प्लेक्स कैलकुलेशन इन्वॉल्व है, तो जो चीज कॉम्प्लेक्स होगी उसमें इनहेरेंट इनहेरेंट ही तो उसमें रिस्क ज्यादा होगा। इनहेरेंट रिस्क ज्यादा होगा क्योंकि उसमें पॉसिबिलिटी मिसस्टेटमेंट की ज्यादा है। दिस इज द मीनिंग ऑफ इनहेरेंट। कोई इफ समथिंग इज मोर कॉम्प्लेक्स देन इनहेरेंट रिस्क in those kind of transaction, in those kind of assertion is greater. अगर हम कोई ट्रांजैक्शन कर रहे हैं और उसमें ट्रांजैक्शन में कॉम्प्लेक्स कैलकुलेशन है, तो एनी ट्रांजैक्शन एज यू नो इज एन असर्शन फ्रॉम मैनेजमेंट, सो दैट कैलकुलेशन कैरीज ए ग्रेटर रिस्क ऑफ बीइंग मिसस्टेटेड। ओके, yes Priyanka, assertion about class of transaction, account balance, disclosure. Okay, प्रियंका एसर्शन तीन चीजों से रिलेट करती है, क्लास ऑफ ट्रांजैक्शन, अकाउंट बैलेंस और डिस्क्लोजर से। क्लास ऑफ ट्रांजैक्शन मींस ट्रांजैक्शंस जैसे परचेज, सेल, एक्सपेंसेस। अकाउंट बैलेंस जो बैलेंसेस बैलेंस शीट में रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहे हैं, जैसे ट्रेड पेबल्स, ट्रेड रिसीवेबल्स, प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट। और डिस्क्लोजर जो डिस्क्लोजर रिक्वायर्ड है, जो नोट्स में डिस्क्लोजर रिक्वायर्ड है या रिपोर्टिंग फ्रेमवर्क के हिसाब से डिस्क्लोजर रिक्वायर्ड है। ओके। Yes, Swati Krishna, you are asking how misstatement is classified as inherent risk and control risk. मिसस्टेटमेंट को क्लासिफाई नहीं कर रहे इनहेरेंट और कंट्रोल रिस्क स्वाति, हम रिस्क ऑफ मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट को क्लासिफाई कर रहे हैं कि चांसेस दैट मटेरियल मिस दैट चांसेस ऑफ मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट्स हैपनिंग, वो किन किन दो चीजों से अराइज होती है। वो इनहेरेंट रिस्क से अराइज होती है और कंट्रोल रिस्क से अराइज होती है। मिस स्टेटमेंट्स को क्लासिफाई नहीं कर रहे, हम रिस्क ऑफ मटेरियल मिस स्टेटमेंट्स को क्लासिफाई कर रहे हैं। ओके। Yes, Tushar Roy, you are saying why these lines are repeating in all the topics? Because assertion relate to these three things. That is why these lines are repeating. Okay. And materiality is also seen individually and combined with other transactions. That is why these are being repeated. Yes, Anmol Patwa, you are saying what is entire population in sampling risk? Entire population means कि suppose मेरे पास अगर 100 डेटर्स हैं, 100 अकाउंट्स रिसीवेबल हैं और मैं सैंपल लेके उसका 10 चेक कर रहा हूं, तो कंप्लीट पॉपुलेशन क्या है 100 और सैंपल जो है वो 10 है। सैंपल इज 10 एंड कंप्लीट पॉपुलेशन इज 100। ओके अनमोल, इट इज क्लियर टू यू? नहीं संजना, नॉन सैम्पलिंग रिस्क में ऑल ट्रांजैक्शन चेक ये मतलब नहीं है। नॉन सैम्पलिंग रिस्क का मतलब है कि ऑडिटर कुछ और कर रहा है जो कि उसको उस सिचुएशन में नहीं करना चाहिए। ये संतोष, ग्रेटर सैंपल मतलब सैंपल साइज वो बढ़ा देगा अपना सैंपलिंग रिस्क को रिड्यूस करने के लिए। सपोज अगर 100 अकाउंट्स रिसीवेबल हैं तो और 100 में से मैं 10 डेटर चेक कर रहा हूं, तो मैं सैंपल साइज बढ़ा दूंगा ताकि मैं 10 की जगह 25 चेक करूंगा, ताकि मेरा एरिया जो है चेकिंग का वो बढ़ जाए। ओके तुषार, प्लीज से इनहेरेंट रिस्क इन हिंदी। इनहेरेंट रिस्क का हिंदी टर्म तुषार मेरे को मालूम नहीं है, एक्सप्लेनेशन मैंने आपको बता दिया। अनमोल पटवा, व्हाट इज लिटिगेशन? लिटिगेशन मींस when some court cases or when the some matter is in dispute, it is pending in some court or before some authority. So the company may go in litigation or there may be litigation cases against the company. So litigation means involving in cases, involving in legal matters. Vadla Mani, explain audit risk not included case. Vadla Mani, yes, what you are trying to ask? Okay, probably you are trying to ask what is not included in audit risk. Now, as I have told you, some things like loss of reputation of auditor, like litigation, these litigation from expressing is inappropriate opinion, these are not included in audit risk. These do not form part of audit risk. Yes. What if auditor unintentionally do mistake in detecting? That is his risk. That is audit risk. अनप्लेजेंट कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस, प्रियंका पांडे, मैंने पहले ही बता दिया आपको। सैम्पलिंग रिस्क भी बता दिया है, इनहेरेंट रिस्क भी बता दिया है। नाउ गुंजन देवी आप कोई पुराना क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हैं, एलिमेंट ऑफ रिजिडिटी इन ऑडिट प्रोग्राम। इसका मतलब है कि ऑडिट प्रोग्राम में फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी होनी चाहिए। एलिमेंट उसमें कोई ऐसी चीज नहीं होनी चाहिए जो उसको फिक्स बनाए कि ये चेंज ही नहीं हो सकता चाहे जो मर्जी सिचुएशन हो, ऐसा नहीं है। राहुल शर्मा ऑटोमेटेड कंट्रोल्स के बारे में आप इसी चैप्टर में पढ़ेंगे आगे। ये आपका हाइपोथेटिकल क्वेश्चन है, कल को उत्तर। जयेश भाई कि मैं दो ऑडिटर को दे दूं और दोनों का डिफरेंट ओपिनियन है तो किस पे रिलाई करेंगे। आप कंपनी ऑडिटर में एक ही ऑडिटर को अपॉइंट कर सकते हैं, एक कंपनी एक ही ऑडिटर को अपॉइंट कर सकती है। लिटिगेशन आई हैव ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन्ड। एंटायर पॉपुलेशन आई हैव ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन्ड। Yes, Priyanka Malkhede, erroneous conclusion. Erroneous conclusion means a conclusion which is full of errors, which is not proper. Erroneous means जो गलत conclusion है, which is arrived, which has been arrived errorfully. Okay. Assertion अभी नेक्स्ट चैप्टर में आएगा, जितना आपको इसमें पढ़ना है वो बता दिया हमने। स्मिता, प्रिवेसिव। प्रिवेसिव मींस जो कि एक चीज तक रिस्ट्रिक्टेड नहीं है, कई चीजों को अफेक्ट कर रहा है, विच इज अफेक्टिंग मैनी थिंग्स, प्रिवेसिव। ऑडिट रिस्क नॉट इंक्लूडेड, वंदना आई हैव ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन्ड। Yes, now these are all the answers. पॉपुलेशन, अनमोल पटवा, पॉपुलेशन इन सैम्पलिंग रिस्क मैंने बता दिया है। एरोनियस कंक्लूजन भी बता दिया आपको। तो स्टूडेंट्स, आई होप कि आपको इसके बेसिक्स समझ में आ गए हैं, यू हैव अंडरस्टूड द बेसिक्स। और ये आपको एक बार समझने में प्रॉपर नहीं आपको क्लैरिटी होगी, आपको इस टॉपिक को स्टूडेंट बार बार पढ़ना पड़ेगा और डेफिनेशन पोर्शन आपको रिमेंबर करना पड़ेगा। ओके, नहीं तो आप इसके क्वेश्चंस जो हैं एग्जाम में गलत करेंगे। ओके ओके स्टूडेंट्स, सो इट्स ओवर फॉर टुडे, सो सी यू टुमारो। So there is a class tomorrow also, guys. So see you tomorrow, guys, at 7. Thank you so much.